Once in the forest you'll find a fabulous banquet, a fairy ball. If you close your eyes and you open your mind, the veil disappears and you'll see it all.
Hi my angels, it's Haley Reese and happy Easter to those of you who do celebrate Easter. I celebrate Easter personally and I am really excited to go and spend some quality time with my family later today. But for those of you who are looking for a new video today, or maybe are not celebrating Easter and are looking for something to watch, I figured I would finally bring you guys the Conjuring 2 true story. Ever since I did the Conjuring 1 true story behind it, you guys have been requesting so heavily that I dive into the true story behind the Conjuring 2 and really explore what pieces of the film are real and what pieces of the film are perhaps Hollywood fabricated. The Conjuring 2 is actually based on one of the most documented paranormal happenings in history, the Enfield poltergeist. Now the film The Conjuring 2 actually surrounds an English family who experiences an absolutely terrifying poltergeist. Personally, for me, out of the entire Conjuring series, this had to be one of the scariest for me. I don't know what it was about it. Just the entire film really freaked me out for so many different reasons. And it's one of them that I know that when I watch this movie or rewatch this movie, I will forever be frightened by it. I don't know why, it is. The true story behind it is no less terrifying than the film. However, as terrifying as the film is, it was the reality for the Hodgson family back in 1977 in Enfield, North London. The Hodgson family consisted of Peggy, a single mother raising her 4 children, Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. So on August 30th, 1977, an absolutely terrified Margaret, and particularly Janet, awoke Peggy claiming that the beds in the brothers' room were shaking and levitating completely on their own. They were frantic. Particularly Janet was really adamant that her mom come to see what was going on in the boys' bedroom, but obviously Peggy didn't think that this type of phenomena could exist or could happen, and she sent them back to bed. That was until the following night when Peggy awoke to extreme ruckus in the children's rooms and went to go investigate it for herself. When she walked into the boys' bedroom, there was a drawer from a dresser flying around the room completely on its own, and there was no plausible explanation in sight as to how this drawer could be flying around the room. Now when Peggy went to go and stop this drawer, it actually flew in front of the bedroom door, blocking the children in. Or actually the children and Peggy, but you get the point. It blocked them completely in the bedroom. So they went to their neighbors for help, and their neighbors actually are a couple that claim that a lot of this really did happen, that they witnessed things with their own 2 eyes, and they called the police to come and investigate. Now one of the female officers actually has put in a report, so this is documented, that she saw a chair slide across the room a fair distance and there was no explanation for it. Now much like Peggy's initial reaction, this officer could not figure out how something like this could happen. So she immediately began searching for like a string or something that could prove that the family was in fact filing or calling about a false report and that this was all fabricated. She could not find a string and even went as far as to thinking that perhaps the floor was slanted or angled. So she grabbed a marble and she placed the marble on the floor, but the marble did not roll. There was no explanation for how this chair could have possibly slid across the floor at the speed and distance that it did. Now the police were unable to assist because this was a complete paranormal phenomenon and there was no true crime committed. Nobody had broken into the house, nobody was messing with them, they could not explain the happenings, and the police ultimately could do nothing. Now it didn't take long for the report to get all across the news and media outlets. Both skeptics and believers alike were reporting on this story, were trying to theorize and debunk it and figure out what exactly could be going on in this home. Now, one thing that I found super interesting is that despite what the film represents, Ed and Lorraine Warren had minimal involvement in this paranormal case. They actually showed up uninvited one day, spent a day investigating, and that was basically it. In the film, it represents that they had much more involvement in this particular case and that Ed and Lorraine Warren spent a great deal of time there, but that was actually a misrepresentation or a Hollywood dramatization. Ed and Lorraine Warren had minimal involvement in this particular paranormal case. Now, an inventor by the name of Maurice Grosse, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, I definitely butchered it, but you guys can do your own research and figure out how to pronounce all these names because I know I'm not going to get them all right. But he and a writer by the name of Guy Lyon Playfair were actually the ones extremely invested in this particular paranormal case. More so Maurice. Maurice is said to be one of the most involved in this particular case of the Enfield poltergeist. Now, they both believed this haunting to be true, and when a lot of skeptics tried to debunk it, and when a lot of people came forward with particular theories as to what could really be going on, they really stood behind the family, and they really fought for what they thought to be completely true, and that was this particular poltergeist and this haunting. While others, such as Anita Gregory and John Bailoff, were completely on the opposing side of believing this family. Now, both Anita and John are professors of psychology, and they both believed this case was a series of faked incidents by Margaret and Janet to gain media attention, publicity, and to create media stories. There were many other skeptics and believers alike in this particular case, but those were kind of the main people invested, although there were a few others. You can really research into, everybody who was involved in this particular case. But the main thing about this case was that you were either on one side or the other. You either believed what they were going through or you did not. Now, during this paranormal investigation, some of the most terrifying events took place. Evil voices could be heard all around the house. And Maurice and Guy actually reported that there were curious whistling and barking noises coming from Janet's general direction. Objects such as Lego and furniture would begin to fly around the room. Sometimes furniture would even flip completely on its own, but even stranger, children would be seen levitating without any possible explanation for those witnessing it. And to be honest with you guys, that's really just scraping the surface of things that went on in this house. I mean, matches with light without being lit by anybody. Puddles of water were seen all over the floor. You'd be walking through the house and you would suddenly get this feeling of darkness and dread and complete nausea just overwhelming your body. There were so many things going on in this house. But the scariest of all actually revolved around Janet. It seemed as though whatever was happening within this home had found an attachment to Janet, which, get a load of this, you guys, would make complete sense because both Janet and Margaret said that this activity within their home began after they played with a Ouija board. So the two girls had played with a Ouija board and all of a sudden everything began happening in the house. So it would make sense that it would have formed some sort of an attachment to Janet. Because normally when you unleash something from a Ouija board, it forms an attachment to the space or to a person who had been playing it. And in this particular case, I feel as though it formed an attachment to Janet, but also to the space. Now, two neighbors passing by actually claimed that when they looked up to Janet's bedroom, they would see her levitating and flying through the air. It was even reported that Janet would be sitting on a chair and just suddenly be flown across the room with absolutely no explanation for it. Now, even creepier, Janet began becoming a paranormal channel for spirits. It was said that Janet could actually channel and speak the voice of Bill Wilkins, who had actually passed away in this particular home years and years prior. Now, when Janet channeled Bill, this demonic, dark, and creepy voice came forward. Now, I want to show you guys two things that actually became the forefront for skepticism in this particular paranormal case, but if it is true, it's really incredible paranormal, what's the word? It's really incredible evidence. There, that's what I was looking for. So this first thing is a series of images that claim to be of Janet being pulled off of her bed and thrown around by a demonic force, or the force within the home. Now, a lot of people think that this photo is completely fabricated because it looks as though Janet is simply just jumping through the air. But Janet claims, and the family claims, and those involved in the case claim that this was her being pulled around by a demonic force. Now, if that isn't creepy enough, I'm going to insert a clip right here of Janet speaking in this particular voice. I'm not sure if she was channeling Bill in this moment or another entity, but you'll get the idea of that dark, raspy, growly voice Janet would create. Now, Anita Gregory and John Bailoff really truly believed that the girls were staging a lot of these paranormal events and happenings, and that they were playing tricks on investigators. It was really thought that Janet was simply creating this voice emerging from her when she would channel these spirits and entities. And it was thought that it was actually produced by false vocal cords. Now, another thing that people noted was when Janice would speak on behalf of these paranormal entities, they believed that it was the vocabulary of a child/teenager. They really didn't think that if it were a true old man ghost who had passed away speaking through her, that it would be speaking in the same way as a teenager would, or a child would. And on that note as well, when Janet would speak on behalf of Bill, she would switch subject matter very, very quickly. And that was a habit that Janet personally had, not being able to stay on one particular subject. So this was really, really crucial evidence for a lot of people who believed that Janet was staging things. Now, another thing that happened that really, really added fuel to the skeptics' fire was a camera in the other room caught Janet trying to bend spoons on her own, and they believed that this was one of her many ways of staging poltergeist activity. Now, the family had a priest visit the home, and occurrences really started to subside in the home, but they never ever fully stopped. And in 2013, The Conjuring 2 was created based on these particular events. It was directed by James Wan, who has also done The Conjuring 1 and Annabelle, who I really, really am a big fan of his work. But something really, really strange and interesting to note, you guys, is that Janet was absolutely appalled when she heard that they were going to be making a film based on what she experienced. She was not for it. She was not happy about it. And to this day, she is hesitant and really, really against answering any questions as to what went on in that family home from 1977 to 1979. So that is essentially the summary of what exactly happened with the Enfield poltergeist, which inspired The Conjuring 2. As you can see, there are a lot of similarities between the film and between the true occurrences, but there are also a lot of things that were very different. I mean, I was really shocked to hear that Ed and Lorraine Warren had much less involvement in the case than was let on, but at the same time, I can understand that Ed and Lorraine Warren are such faces of paranormal investigations and things like that, that it did make for a great film to really just increase their involvement, so to speak. With everything that I've shared with you guys today, what do you think of the Enfield poltergeist? Do you think it was a staging by Janet and Margaret, or do you guys believe that it was completely the truth? I will note that when pushed on the fact that they didn't think that it was Janet's voice speaking, they said that she would use this voice for 3 hours at a time, and that would be completely damaging to a child or teenager's vocal cords if it were a staged voice. So a lot of people did believe that this was completely the truth, but a lot of people believed that it wasn't. So this is where I encourage you guys to go ahead and drop a comment down below letting me know what exactly you guys think happened with the Enfield poltergeist, if you think it was the truth or not. If you guys are new to my channel, or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, I would absolutely love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button. I post a ton of videos, so I don't want you guys to miss when I upload. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It makes my heart super, super happy when you guys do that. So please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.